Evening, everyone. My name is Kylee. I'll be introducing myself to my classmates as well as to our instructor, Miss Schwalbowski. I'll be explaining how I moved across the state of Michigan with my mother after my father passed. Um, my dad was the person who gave me a sense of purpose. He helped a lot with shaping who I am as a person. And I'll be speaking a little bit about my ambitious educational career, creativity, and how I learned to gain so much knowledge at such a young age. Although I absolutely know I do not know everything. I am originally from a suburban town and now live in a rural area within Michigan. I very much enjoy the change of pace of living in a small town compared to the city. I live with my mom, our two cats, and our dog. My mother and I often venture out to visit all of the lighthouses that we can see and find each year. So far, we have visited a little over a dozen lighthouses and plan to visit many more. A fun fact is that Michigan has 129 lighthouses, which is more than any other state in the country. Now, you've heard of Jack of all trades. Well, I can often be referred to as a Jane of all trades. From an early age, I have delved into many things, so I feel as though I am knowledgeable about a lot, even for someone as young as I am. As a 29-year-old, I know I have been through a lot, and quite a bit more than many folks twice my age. When I was younger, at the age of 3, my father was diagnosed with kidney stones that led to him having kidney disease. Um, He didn't have to be on dialysis immediately, though. Um, at the age of 11, I had to become a caregiver for him. He had a massive heart attack, which caused him to have to go in the hospital. He had to have triple bypass surgery, and he had less than 30% chance of living through this surgery. However, um, he pulled through, and it took him several months to a year to really be able to be independent again. However, he was able to do so with a lot of hard work on his part and also a lot of work from my mother, my brother, and myself. Um, and this also, with taking care of him, this also led me to wanting to learn how to care for others like I have for him, especially when it came to dialysis. I was very interested in how dialysis worked. Um, Taking care of my father kicked off my ambitions to become a nurse and dialysis technician. When he started dialysis in 2007, um, I would often sit with him and my mom. I got to know the technicians, and they taught me about the machine and how it worked, and it just fascinated me with how his blood would go through the tubes into the machine and then back into his body. I just always found that really interesting and with how it was filtered and just knowing the process. Um, this led me to investigating how dialysis worked on my own time. There were many things that I had learned that were both very good and quite bad. Um, There were practices that the facility would do that our family was not happy about. One of them being uh, reuse, meaning they would reuse dialyzers when in actuality, my parents were paying for, through their insurance, were paying for a new dialyzer for every single treatment. And so this meant my father was paying for something that he wasn't receiving, and with the thing that he was receiving, had the chance of giving him infections, making him sick, getting mixed up with someone else's dialyzer and making them sick. Um, so finally, after an accident happened at the clinic where they did actually mix up my father's dialyzer with someone else's, um, they actually used his dialyzer on someone else. My mother contacted an advocate, and that advocate came out actually from California to Michigan to sit with my parents and his doctors and the dialysis um, uh, coordinator, I guess, uh, and to talk about how the treatments could be better and what my father's rights were and what other dialysis patients' rights were. Um, and through this, um, they actually helped make it so DaVita, in particular, the company that my father went through for his dialysis, had to actually stop doing the reusable dialyzers and had to use new ones every single time, which is what they should have been doing before. Um, Learning all the things that I could through the technicians and the nurses and his doctors made me want to help in some way. However, I wanted to make sure that if I ever ran my own clinic, which was my dream at one point, it would be run properly and under state regulations, so that way I knew that rules would be followed. After my father was diagnosed with an infection in his foot, I had to learn wound care after that. Um, so he had a visiting nurse come by, and she taught me everything that I needed to know and even more than what I needed to know. I learned how to stay as sterile as possible within our own home, how to treat wounds with both first aid and with infectious wounds. And she taught me how to hook up a wound vac. Um, a wound vac is a certain machine that is used in order to draw out infections from wounds especially from people who can't naturally do that in excess by themselves. So she taught me how to use that, and it was really interesting, and it really learning all that I learned in the medical field so far by that point had really inspired me and made me want to be a nurse and even further a dialysis technician. However, after my father passed away in 2013, I realized that my desire to become a nurse and dialysis technician had really diminished pretty significantly. Um, I still wanted to help people, but I wasn't really sure how I wanted to help people. I just knew I kind of needed a break after that. Losing my dad was really hard for me. It was really hard for our entire family, but especially for me. I'm a daddy's girl, so he was like my person. Um, so it was a very significant loss. And after I went through my depression and my anxiety kicked up, it was just really hard to continue on that path. Um, so Um, I entered college. I went to Oakland Community College. I first enrolled as a nurse, hoping to maybe gain some of my desire, my passion back in order to do it. Unfortunately, it never really came back. So I ended up um, taking elective courses for a good portion of the beginning of my college career. Um, So I ended up taking a lot of criminal justice courses. for my electives. And I found it really interesting. So I transitioned from a nursing student to a criminal justice student. And it was really cool how I got to interact in both worlds because even in my own time, I was still interacting with the medical field because my grandmother was also ill and I had to help take care of her. Um, After taking several classes in criminal justice and in homeland security, I specific I sec- after taking classes in criminal justice and in homeland security, specifically, I fell in love with the subject. My love of learning the subject took over, and so I continued on with it. I ended up with an associate's and a in many certifications, including a Homeland Security certification. Um, and then while going to college, those last couple years, I became a dementia caregiver. I did that for about 4, 5 months or so. You probably even say it's longer because I went on my own instead of with the company that I was working for. Excuse me. And it was really hard to watch someone deteriorate over time. So I had to really step away from that because it's a totally different ballgame when you're dealing with someone deteriorating mentally compared to physically. Um, but after that, I also became a tax preparer. I am currently a licensed tax preparer. Um, I felt like my love of helping others was being fulfilled again in some way, which fueled my creative spirit as well. I'm a creative person. I love to craft, make things with my hands, and to write. Both of my parents are and were creative people. So my brother and I are also quite creative. My brother draws, while I love to write and craft. I often craft with beads, wire, and string in order to make dream catchers. They are not traditional dream catchers, they're pretty modern. Um, I also really enjoy crocheting now. I picked that up within the last couple of years, and I have learned how to make dolls and stuffed animals, specifically, and I really enjoy that. And I've also been a very creative writer over the years. Ever since I was a teenager, um, I enjoyed writing fictional tales and playing with ideas in the fantasy world, in creating worlds, creating people with powers. It's just been really interesting to me. Um, and in conclusion, my ambitions, love to learn, and my creativity have driven me to be the person that I am today. My dad was a huge factor in my upbringing and encouraged me to be whatever I wanted to be. When I wanted to be a nurse and dialysis technician, it was all because of the things that I learned from his experience in dialysis and his health care and how involved I was with it. When he passed, I learned that I did not want or have or even have to continue that path, even if I still wanted to help people in some way. And now that I am an adult, my mother has really encouraged me to do what I wanted to do, even if it's different, even if it's scary, even if um, it's not what I thought my path would be. It's been very interesting to learn just how much I can learn, even for being so young and going through as much as I have, and um, just being able to help other people, and knowing that I know I can do whatever I want to do and be whoever I want to be. And it's been really fulfilling to do so. Anyway, that's all about me. Thank you for listening. Enjoy your night.